Welcome back to Saxon Math Course 1. Today we are looking at Lesson 5, which is the beginning of the order of operations. Today's objectives after this lesson, you should be able to take steps in order from left to right in a problem with more than one addition or subtraction step. Take steps in order from left to right in a problem with more than one multiplication or division step. Do the work within parentheses first when solving a problem with more than one step. Identify and use the associative property of addition and the associative property of multiplication. And perform the operations above the bar and below the bar before dividing in a division problem with a bar. Some review from your last lesson. Remember, when we're missing a factor in a multiplication problem, you divide the known numbers to solve. When we're missing the dividend or the first number in a division problem, we multiply the known numbers to solve. And when we're missing the divisor or the second number or middle number in a division problem, we divide the known numbers to solve. Let's talk about the order of operations. Math, as you know, has a lot of different rules to make sure that it works the way it does. And one of those sets of rules is known as the order of operations. The order of operations makes solving large, confusing-looking math problems much simpler as long as you follow them the right way. If you don't follow the order of operations, you're going to find that it can really mess up your answers when you're doing longer problems. So, the first rule that I want to emphasize to you is that you always do the work inside of parentheses, and these are parentheses, first. No matter what else is going on in your problem, you have to do what's inside parentheses first. Sometimes that won't mess with your answer. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But a lot of times if you don't do what's in the parentheses first, it's really going to change the answer that you get. So let's talk about addition and subtraction. So if your math problem only has addition and subtraction in it, those are the only two operations in your math problem that you're given, the order doesn't matter. You just have to work left to right. So for example, if you had 9 minus 4 plus 3, all you do is start with the 9, do 9 minus 4, find that answer, add 3, and then you end up with 8 because 9 minus 4 is 5, and you add 3 to 5 and you get 8. But if there are parentheses, you have to do what's in the parentheses first. Now it will matter. So in this problem, if I add parentheses around the 4 and the 3, I have to do what's in parentheses first. So I have to add my 4 plus 3, and that's 7. So 9 minus 7 is 2. See how it changed our answer? So make sure you do what's in parentheses first. The same is true with multiplication and division. So if those are the only two operations in your math problem, you go left to right. So for example, 24 divided by 6 times 2, we would do 24 divided by 6 first, which is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. So that would be our answer. But remember, if you see parentheses, you have to do what's inside the parentheses first. So if I see parentheses around my 6 times 2, I must do that first, which is 12, and then I would do 24 divided by 12, which would be 2. So it definitely changes your answer. Speaking of division, let's look at a special kind of division problem. If you remember way back, we talked about the different ways to write division, and one of them is to write it kind of like a fraction, where it has the bar, and I'll give you an example in just a second. So if you have that fraction bar and you have addition or subtraction or multiplication on top of or underneath the bar, you have to do those little mini problems first. So do the addition or subtraction or whatever it is first before you do your division. So here's an example. Sometimes you'll see division problems written like this. This right here is the bar I was talking about. That's the division bar. Okay, so you see you have 7 plus 2 on top and 4 minus 1 on the bottom. You have to do those addition and subtraction problems first. So 7 plus 2 is 9, 4 minus 1 is 3, and then we would divide. So now it's 9 on top of 3, which is 9 divided by 3, and the answer would be 3. If the math problem only has addition or only has multiplication, so that's the only thing, it's just a bunch of addition or a bunch of multiplication, and it has parentheses, then the parentheses where they are, it doesn't really matter, because remember, you can move around addends or factors and it doesn't change your answer. This is what's called the associative property that the objectives were talking about. So the associative property says in addition or multiplication, it doesn't matter how you group the numbers together, you're always going to get the same answer. So here are a couple examples. If these were the problems we were given, 6 plus 2 plus 5 equals 13, or 3 times 2 times 4 equals 24. If we then move the parentheses to the other side of the problem, you're still going to get the same answer. Doesn't matter. However, this does not work with subtraction or division. So say these are our problems. Okay. Look at what happens when I change where the parentheses are in these two problems. It changes our answer because order does matter, grouping does matter in subtraction and division. So subtraction and division do not have an associative property. Only addition and multiplication have the associative property, and you'll remember the associative property if you remember that it has to do with the parentheses. It has to do with grouping in addition and multiplication. That's all for today's video. Make sure you do your practice problems, and if you have questions, put them in that discussion section and we will talk about them in class. And we will see you in your next lesson.